Lucky American coins. The 1985 United States 1-cent coin is one of the Lincoln Memorial cents that can still attract the attention of collectors today, especially when a particular example shows a genuine minting error, an unusual die variety, an exceptional state of preservation, or another characteristic that separates it from the enormous number of ordinary 1985 cents that were produced. The coin carries a face value of 1 cent, but collectors know that the face value of a coin and its collector value are two very different things. A normal 1985 Lincoln cent is generally a common modern coin, while a genuine and dramatic mint error can sometimes bring a substantially higher price. The most important point for anyone researching the 1985 penny is that there is no reliable evidence that an ordinary 1985 Lincoln cent, even one described online as an error coin, has a confirmed market value of $271 million. That figure should not be presented as an established auction result or guaranteed current value. Professional coin references show much more realistic prices for normal 1985 cents and for known high-grade examples. For example, PCGS records the 1985 Philadelphia Lincoln cent as a copper-plated zinc coin weighing 2.50 grams, measuring about 19 millimeters, with a mintage of 5,648,489,887, and its listed auction record for the referenced regular strike variety is $100 for an MS66 RB example. The story becomes much more interesting when the word error is added. A genuine mint error is not simply a coin that looks strange, damaged, dirty, scratched, discolored, or worn. A true error normally occurs during the manufacturing process at the United States Mint. The error may involve the planchette, the dies, the striking process, the positioning of the coin, the composition of the metal, or another stage of production. Because billions of Lincoln cents were produced, collectors have learned to distinguish ordinary damage from genuine mint-made errors. That distinction is extremely important because internet videos and social media posts sometimes assign enormous values to coins without providing an actual auction record, professional certification, or documented transaction. A coin can look unusual and still be worth only a few cents. Another coin can have a dramatic and authenticated mint error and be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The difference comes from the nature of the error, its authenticity, rarity, condition, demand, and the willingness of collectors to compete for it. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial cent belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series. The obverse features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. The portrait is based on the famous design created by Victor David Brenner. The reverse of the 1985 coin features the Lincoln Memorial, a design associated with Frank Gasparro and used on Lincoln cents from 1959 through 2008. The words United States of America appear around the reverse, with 1 cent below the memorial and E pluribus unum above it. On the obverse, Liberty appears to the left of Lincoln's portrait, In God We Trust is positioned above the portrait, and the date 1985 appears to the right. Depending on the mint of origin, a mint mark can appear below the date. The Philadelphia issue has no mint mark, while Denver examples carry AD, and San Francisco produced proof examples bearing an S. The 1985 cent is especially interesting because it belongs to the copper-plated zinc era of the Lincoln cent. The United States Mint changed the composition of the cent in 1982, moving away from the traditional bronze composition used for earlier Lincoln cents, and adopting a zinc core covered with a thin layer of copper. The standard 1985 cent weighs approximately 2.50 grams. PCGS lists the regular 1985 Philadelphia cent as copper-plated zinc with a 2.50 gram weight and a 19.00 mm diameter. This composition is extremely important when investigating alleged errors because the weight of a suspected coin can provide a useful first clue. However, weight by itself does not prove an error. Scales can be inaccurate, dirt can remain on a coin, wear can alter a small amount of weight, and damaged coins can produce confusing readings. A suspected error should be examined as a complete object rather than judged from one measurement. The normal 1985 cent is therefore fundamentally different from an early copper Lincoln cent. Someone who discovers a 1985 penny and assumes that it must contain valuable copper because it looks reddish is making a mistake. The copper color is primarily the result of the thin copper plating over the zinc core. A bright red appearance can be desirable to collectors when it represents original or well-preserved red coloration, but color alone does not transform a common coin into a $1 million rarity. Professional grading services use designations such as BN, RB, and RO to describe the color condition of Lincoln cents. BN generally means brown, RB means red-brown, and RO means red. For high-grade modern Lincoln cents, the RO designation can be particularly important because collectors often seek coins that retain their original bright red appearance. The Philadelphia 1985 Lincoln cent had an enormous production run. PCGS reports 5,648,489,887 pieces for the Philadelphia issue. This enormous number means that an ordinary 1985 penny is not rare simply because it is 1985. A date being several decades old does not automatically make a coin scarce. There are billions of surviving modern Lincoln cents, and many remain in circulation, collections, jars, rolls, bags, and old accumulations. Scarcity is determined by supply and demand, not simply by age. A coin can be old and common, or relatively young and extremely rare. For a 1985 cent, the special value usually comes from condition, era status, variety, or an unusual minting characteristic rather than from the date alone. The Denver 1985D Lincoln cent is another major version of the coin. PCGS lists the 1985D cent as a copper-plated zinc coin weighing 2.50 grams, with a mintage of approximately 5.287 billion pieces. The 1985D cent can also become more valuable when it reaches unusually high grades. PCGS notes that the population becomes increasingly scarce at very high grades and records an auction result of $5,635 for an MS-69 example sold in 2010. This is a very useful illustration of how collector markets actually work. The coin is not valuable merely because it says 1985D. The value is associated with an exceptional certified condition rarity. Millions of ordinary examples exist, while a coin that survives with nearly perfect surfaces can become much more desirable to specialized collectors. This is also why a claim such as 1985 penny worth $271 million should be handled carefully. A headline can be used to attract viewers, but it should not be presented as a confirmed valuation unless there is evidence. The realistic and responsible way to discuss the subject is to say that a viral $271 million claim is not supported by the established auction records and reference information available for the 1985 Lincoln cent. The coin could theoretically become extremely valuable if an extraordinary, previously unknown, authenticated error were discovered and if collectors competed aggressively for it, but nobody should confuse that possibility with a documented $271 million market value. Coin prices are established by actual transactions, not by numbers typed into a video title. A collector examining a 1985 penny should begin with the date and mint mark. If there is no mint mark, the coin is generally associated with the Philadelphia issue. If there is a D below the date, it is a Denver issue. If there is an S, the coin may be a San Francisco proof, and the proof characteristics should be examined. PCGS lists the 1985 South Proof Center as a copper-plated zinc coin weighing 2.50 grams, with San Francisco producing millions of proof examples. Proof coins were struck specifically for collectors and generally have sharper details and specially prepared surfaces compared with ordinary circulation strikes. A proof should not automatically be called an error simply because it has a reflective surface. One of the most important potential error categories for a 1985 cent involves the planchette, or the composition. Because the 1985 cent should normally be copper-plated zinc, a coin that appears to have an entirely different composition deserves investigation. A suspected wrong planchette, or transitional error, can be very interesting, but it must be authenticated. A simple test involving weight can help narrow the possibilities, but it is not enough by itself. A genuine composition error would normally require evidence that the blank used to strike the coin was not the correct planchette intended for that denomination or production run. A collector should never assume that a heavier coin is automatically a rare copper error. The standard weight of 2.50 grams is one of the most useful baseline figures for the 1985 cent. A coin that measures substantially around that number is behaving as expected. A significantly different measurement could justify further investigation, especially if the difference is large and consistent on a reliable scale. However, there are many reasons why a damaged coin can weigh differently. Corrosion, plating loss, environmental exposure, embedded material, filing, grinding, clipping, or other post-mint damage can affect the weight. That is why professional examination is so important when the suspected difference is dramatic. The edge is another area worth examining. A normal 1985 cent has a plain edge. PCGS lists the edge as plain. Collectors should rotate the coin under strong light and inspect the entire circumference. A genuine striking problem may affect the edge in a distinctive way, while post-mint damage can leave scratches, flattening, tool marks, or other signs. A coin with an unusual edge should be compared with known examples rather than immediately described as a mint error. A clipped planchette is another type of mint error collectors sometimes encounter. In a genuine clipped planchette error, part of the metal blank is missing because of a problem during the blanking process. A classic curved clip can produce a crescent-shaped missing area. However, not every coin with a missing-looking edge is a clipped planchette. A person can damage a coin with pliers, cutters, grinding equipment, or other tools. Genuine clips often show characteristics associated with the minting process, and professional attribution can help distinguish them from post-mint damage. Broad strikes and off-center strikes are also recognized error categories. A broad strike occurs when the coin is struck outside the normal retaining collar, allowing the planchette to spread beyond its expected shape. An off-center strike occurs when the planchette is not properly centered during striking. The percentage of off-center displacement can affect desirability. A minor shift may have limited premium, while a dramatic and clearly visible off-center strike can be much more collectible. The date and major design elements remaining visible can also matter, because collectors generally want an error that clearly demonstrates what happened while retaining enough information to identify the coin. Double strikes can be fascinating. A coin may be struck more than once, with the second strike producing visible doubling, or a second impression. But collectors must distinguish a genuine doubled strike from machine doubling or other forms of doubling. Machine doubling often appears as a flattened shelf-like secondary image, while a true double die is created during die manufacture, and can produce different characteristics. A genuine double die is technically a variety rather than the same thing as a coin being struck twice. These distinctions may sound technical, but they can make a substantial difference in attribution and value. A double die is created when the die itself receives multiple impressions during its production in slightly different positions. When that die subsequently strikes coins, the doubled features can appear repeatedly on many examples. A collector should look carefully at letters and numbers, especially areas where doubling is known to occur. But a random scratch or flattened edge on a letter does not establish a double die. Authentication requires comparison with known varieties and, for valuable pieces, professional attribution. Die cracks are another fascinating feature. As dies are repeatedly used, stress can produce cracks. If a crack develops on the die and then strikes coins, the resulting coins can show raised lines corresponding to the crack in the die. These raised lines can be collectible, particularly when they are dramatic. A die break can become even more interesting when a portion of the die begins to deteriorate and creates a raised area known to collectors as a cud. Again, not every raised mark is a die crack. Post-mint damage can create scratches and gouges, and the direction and shape of the mark must be studied. The 1985 cent is particularly useful for teaching collectors the difference between a true mint error and ordinary damage because billions of examples have passed through circulation. These coins have been carried in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, exposed to moisture, scraped against other coins, placed in machines, cleaned, polished, heated, chemically treated, and sometimes intentionally altered. A damaged coin may look much more dramatic than a genuine minor error, yet it may have almost no collector premium. This is why professional error specialists emphasize the origin of the unusual feature. One of the most common mistakes made by new collectors is cleaning a potentially valuable coin. If someone discovers an unusual 1985 cent, the temptation may be to polish it so the details appear brighter. That can actually reduce its value. Abrasive cleaning can leave hairline scratches, unnatural surfaces, and evidence of alteration. Chemical cleaning can change the color and surface texture. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces. If a coin is potentially valuable, it should be left untouched until it can be properly evaluated. The Lincoln Memorial reverse itself is historically important. The memorial design was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design shows the Lincoln Memorial Building, and a tiny representation of Lincoln can be seen inside the memorial on close inspection. The reverse remained on the cent for nearly half a century, before the Mint introduced the 4 reverse designs commemorating Lincoln's life in 2009, and then the Union Shield reverse beginning in 2010. Therefore, the 1985 cent is part of a major chapter in the history of American circulating coinage. The Lincoln portrait on the obverse is one of the most recognizable images in American numismatics. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln had already become deeply associated with the United States 1-cent denomination by the time the 1985 coin was struck. The basic portrait design had been used since 1909, making the Lincoln cent one of the longest-running designs in American coin history. Although the 1985 cent is not an early Lincoln cent, it still belongs to a historic series that has been collected by generations. The phrase e pluribus unum appears above the memorial on the reverse. The Latin phrase is commonly translated as out of many, one, and it has long been associated with the United States. United States of America appears across the upper reverse, while 1 cent identifies the denomination. On the obverse, In God We Trust appears above Lincoln, Liberty is positioned to the left, and the date appears on the right. These inscriptions make the coin easy to identify even when worn. When discussing the coin symbol, it is important to clarify what the user may mean. The denomination symbol is normally the 1 cent denomination, represented by the word 1 cent on the reverse and a face value of 1 cent. The mint mark is a separate identification mark. AD indicates Denver, while an S on a proof indicates San Francisco. Philadelphia traditionally used no mint mark on this issue. Therefore, the absence of a mint mark on a 1985 cent does not automatically mean something is missing or wrong. It is expected for the Philadelphia issue. The weight of 2.50 grams is especially significant because the 1985 coin is from the zinc era. A collector who has a 1985 cent that weighs approximately 3.11 grams may become curious because older copper cents have a different standard weight. However, a heavier coin needs professional testing before it can be called a rare transitional or wrong planchet error. The mere presence of a different weight does not establish a valuable mint mistake. There are counterfeit, altered, plated, damaged, and contaminated coins that can also produce unexpected measurements. The diameter is approximately 19 millimeters. PCGS lists 19.00 mm for the 1985 regular strike. The plain edge and copper-plated zinc construction complete the basic physical profile. These measurements can be used as a first-level screening process. A collector can photograph the obverse, reverse, edge, and any suspicious feature, measure the diameter, weigh the coin on a precision scale, and compare the results with established specifications. The Denver issue is also worth studying because of its huge mintage and exceptional high-grade potential. PCGS lists 5,287,399,926 pieces for the 1985 cent. A coin from such a large production run generally needs something special to command a significant premium. A top-grade coin can become scarce because most pieces were subjected to contact, transportation, bag marks, counting machines, and circulation. The difference between a coin that looks ordinary and one that grades at the very top can therefore be dramatic. This is an important lesson about modern coin collecting. Rarity does not always mean low mintage. A coin can have billions made, but only a tiny number surviving in exceptional condition. Condition rarity can therefore create a market. Collectors assembling a registry set may compete for the finest known examples. When a coin reaches an extremely high grade, the price may rise far beyond the value of a typical circulated example. The 1985 cents documented $5,635 MS-69 auction result demonstrates that exceptional condition can create significant value even for a massively produced coin. The Philadelphia issue can also become interesting in top grades. PCGS describes the 1985 Lincoln cent market as being strongly influenced by condition, noting that high-grade MS-68 road or better examples can attract significant premiums. This does not mean that every shiny 1985 penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. A coin must actually meet the standards of a high professional grade. A coin that appears perfect to the naked eye may still have microscopic contact marks, hairlines, weak strike characteristics, or other flaws that prevent an elite grade. The difference between looks uncirculated and certified MS-69 road can be enormous. Professional graders examine luster, strike, surface preservation, marks, color, and overall eye appeal. A raw coin cannot be assumed to have the grade printed in an online listing. Sellers sometimes describe coins using phrases such as gem, super rare, or perfect, but those descriptions do not carry the same weight as independent professional certification. The San Francisco proof version provides another comparison. PCGS lists the 1985 South Proof Center as a copper-plated zinc coin with a 2.50 gram weight and a mintage of 3,010,497 for the cited DCAM variety. Proof coins are generally made for collectors, and their surfaces can display mirrored fields and frosted design elements. A high-grade proof can be attractive and collectible, but a normal proof is not automatically a rare error. A proof with a genuine mint error can be substantially more interesting. For someone who believes they have a 1985 penny error, the safest approach is to document the coin before doing anything to it. Photograph both sides under neutral lighting. Photograph the edge. Take a close-up of the suspicious area. Weigh it using a reliable digital scale capable of measuring to at least 0.01 gram. Measure its diameter with a precise caliper if available. Compare it with an ordinary 1985 cent. Do not bend it, scratch it, polish it, heat it, soak it in chemicals, or attempt to remove its plating. Those actions can destroy evidence that a professional might need. The next step is comparison. A suspected error should be compared with authenticated examples of the same type. If the coin has a strange shape, determine whether the shape could have been created after leaving the mint. If the coin has a doubled feature, determine whether the doubling is characteristic of a known variety. If it has a strange weight, determine whether the difference is consistent with another planchette. If it has a missing portion, examine whether the characteristics are consistent with a clipped planchette. If the coin appears to have been struck outside the collar, examine the rim and edge for evidence of a broad strike or off-center strike. Professional authentication becomes especially important when a coin is potentially worth a large amount. Third-party grading companies can examine the coin, authenticate it, assign a grade, and sometimes attribute recognized varieties or errors. PCGS and NGC are two well-known services in the American coin market, although collectors should understand exactly what service is being purchased and whether the company offers attribution for the particular error in question. Auction records are among the best ways to understand actual market value. A price guide can be useful, but a completed auction transaction shows what someone actually paid. Even then, one auction result does not necessarily establish a permanent value. The condition, venue, timing, buyer competition, certification, and exact variety all matter. The value of one 1985 cent cannot automatically be transferred to every other 1985 cent. This is why the claimed $271 million figure should be treated as a sensational internet claim rather than a documented market value. There is no credible basis in the cited PCGS records for assigning $271 million to a normal 1985 Lincoln cent. PCGS's published data show much more ordinary values for regular examples, with documented auction records far below that amount. A responsible coin video can still use the $271 million figure as a hook, but it should make clear that the number is not a confirmed selling price. A good video about this coin can say something like this in substance. You may have seen claims that a 1985 Lincoln penny could be worth $271 million, but there's no verified auction record supporting that figure. The real story is more interesting. Genuine errors and extraordinary high-grade examples can be valuable, so you should know what to look for before spending or discarding your 1985 penny. This approach creates curiosity without misleading viewers. The phrase "worth big money" is therefore best understood as a question rather than a conclusion. Is this particular coin worth big money? Maybe, if it contains a genuine, rare, dramatic, authenticated error or is an exceptional condition rarity. Is every 1985 penny worth big money? Absolutely not. Most are common. Is a $271 million value established? No. Has a 1985 Lincoln cent ever automatically become a $271 million coin just because it has an error? No. The collector must establish exactly what the error is and whether the market recognizes it. One of the most important potential errors to understand is a wrong planchette error. A coin is supposed to be struck on a blank prepared for that denomination. If a blank intended for another denomination somehow enters the wrong production line, the resulting coin can display unusual characteristics. Weight, diameter, thickness, and appearance can all help identify such an error. Because wrong planchette errors are relatively unusual and can be dramatic, authenticated examples can command strong premiums. But they must be proven rather than guessed. Another possibility is a struck-through error. This occurs when foreign material comes between the die and planchette during striking. The resulting coin may have an area where the design is missing, distorted, or unusually textured. The appearance can vary dramatically depending on the material involved. A small struck-through area may have modest collector interest, while a large and obvious struck-through error can be much more desirable. A die cap is another striking error. If a struck coin sticks to a die and continues receiving strikes, it can deform dramatically. A capped die coin can develop a distinctive shape and appearance. Such pieces are usually recognizable to experienced error collectors, because the deformation follows a pattern created by repeated striking. A coin that merely looks flattened is not necessarily a die cap. A brokerage is another dramatic error. It can occur when a struck coin remains attached to a die and impresses its design into another planchette. The resulting coin can show a mirror image, or incuse design in a distinctive area. A genuine brokerage can be collectible because it provides a visible record of an unusual sequence in the striking process. A die adjustment strike can also create weak details, but collectors must be cautious. Weak strikes can result from several causes and are not automatically rare. A weakly struck 1985 penny should not be promoted as a valuable error simply because some letters or details look soft. The precise characteristics matter. Another category involves plating problems. Since the 1985 cent has a copper-plated zinc construction, damage to the thin copper layer can produce unusual colors, exposed zinc, blistering, bubbling, flaking, or other surface effects. Some genuine mint-made plating errors can be collectible. However, plating damage can also occur after the coin leaves the mint. Exposure to chemicals, heat, moisture, abrasion, or corrosion can alter the surface. Therefore, the location, shape, texture, and underlying metal must be evaluated carefully. A plating blister can be especially interesting when it formed during manufacturing. But a blister is not automatically worth a large amount. Collectability depends on size, location, authenticity, and demand. A dramatic error with clear evidence can be much more interesting than a minor plating imperfection. The copper-plated zinc composition also means that the 1985 penny can suffer from environmental damage. Zinc is particularly susceptible to corrosion when exposed after the copper layer is compromised. A damaged cent may develop white, gray, or dark corrosion around exposed areas. Some people see such a coin and believe it is an exotic mint error. Often, it is simply environmental damage. This is another reason why error attribution should be based on evidence. The date itself, 1985, is not one of the famous key dates of the Lincoln cent series. Collectors usually associate major Lincoln cent rarities with other dates and varieties, including early issues and certain famous errors. The 1985 cent is more commonly collected as part of a complete Lincoln memorial set, or as a modern era and high-grade collectible. Its historical interest comes from its place in the series and its production during the copper-plated zinc era. The year 1985 also represents an interesting period in American history. The United States was in the middle of technological and economic changes that would shape the following decades. Personal computers were becoming more visible, consumer electronics were expanding, and American manufacturing was evolving. The penny itself was also undergoing technological changes at the mint, with zinc replacing the older solid bronze composition. Every 1985 cent therefore carries a small connection to that period of American monetary history. When a collector holds a 1985 cent, the first thing to remember is that the coin was originally intended to circulate as a 1-cent piece. Its face value was 1/100th of a dollar. It was never issued by the United States Mint as a $271 million object. Any collector premium would have developed later through rarity, condition, era status, historical significance, or demand. The phrase market current value also requires careful interpretation. Market value changes. A coin's value can increase or decrease depending on collector demand, auction results, economic conditions, grading populations, and the discovery of additional examples. A price guide is not a guarantee that a seller will receive that amount. A dealer's offer may be lower because the dealer needs room for overhead, authentication, inventory risk, and resale. An auction may produce a higher result if two determined collectors compete strongly. For a normal circulated 1985 cent, the value is generally close to face value. Reference data such as Numismatic show very low values for ordinary circulated examples, while professional auction records for exceptional pieces show how condition can change the market. The gap between a common circulated cent and a top-grade certified coin illustrates why collectors should never assign one universal value to every coin bearing the same date. For a normal 1985 Philadelphia penny, the most important things to examine are condition, color, surface quality, and any genuine variety or error. For a 1985 D, the mint mark itself is not enough to create rarity because billions were produced. For a 1985 S proof, the proof status and grade matter. For an alleged error, the error itself becomes the central issue. If a collector discovers a 1985 penny with a very large off-center strike, that could be worth investigating. If the date remains visible and the displacement is dramatic, the coin may attract error collectors. If the coin is only slightly off-center, the premium may be much smaller. If the coin has a missing crescent-shaped section, it could potentially be a clipped planchette, but authentication is needed. If the coin has a strange metal composition or weight, it could warrant professional examination. If the coin shows doubling, it should be compared against known double dies and examined for the characteristics of genuine die doubling. The most valuable errors tend to be errors that are obvious, rare, authentic, and desirable. A dramatic error that anyone can immediately understand can be easier to market than a tiny technical variety that requires specialized knowledge. But rarity and eye appeal must work together. Collectors may pay more for an error that is visually striking and clearly identifiable. The grade also matters. Two coins can have the same error, but dramatically different values because one is heavily circulated and the other is nearly pristine. An error coin with original surfaces, strong details, good color, and minimal contact marks can be especially desirable. However, some errors are so dramatic that the error itself matters more than grade. A large off-center strike, for example, may remain collectible even if the coin has substantial circulation. The best way to describe a potentially valuable 1985 penny is therefore not, "This coin is worth $271 million. The better description is, "This coin could be worth more than face value if it contains a genuine, rare, authenticated error, or is an exceptional condition rarity." That statement is accurate, exciting, and useful. A collector should also be aware of counterfeit and altered coins. When an error is supposed to be worth thousands of dollars, the incentive to create fake examples increases. People can alter dates, add mint marks, remove metal, manipulate surfaces, glue pieces together, or otherwise modify coins. Modern technology makes convincing alterations easier to produce. A professional authentication can therefore be worthwhile when the potential value is significant. The 1985 Lincoln cent is particularly suitable for beginner collectors because examples are easy to find. Someone can search rolls of cents, old coin jars, inherited collections, and circulated change. Most finds will be ordinary, but the search teaches valuable skills. Collectors learn to identify mint marks, evaluate condition, distinguish damage from errors, and understand how coins were manufactured. A magnifying glass or loupe can help. Good lighting is also important. The coin should be viewed from multiple angles. Rotating the coin under a light source can reveal luster, scratches, die cracks, plating problems, and surface disturbances. A digital scale can provide a useful weight measurement. A caliper can provide a diameter measurement. A magnet can sometimes help identify unexpected magnetic characteristics, although a magnet test alone is not a definitive authentication method. The coin should be photographed against a neutral background. The obverse should be straight and well focused. The reverse should be equally clear. The edge should be photographed around the entire circumference if an edge error is suspected. Close-ups should be taken of the date, mint mark, lettering, Lincoln's portrait, memorial, rim, and suspicious areas. If the coin has an unusual color, avoid chemical tests that could damage it. A professional can use appropriate methods to examine composition. If the coin is potentially a wrong planchette or transitional error, non-destructive examination is preferable. A valuable coin should not be sacrificed for an amateur experiment. The market for Lincoln cents is broad. Some collectors focus on complete date and mint mark sets. Others focus on errors. Some specialize in doubled dies. Some collect only red modern cents in high grades. Others collect varieties or proof coins. This variety of collecting interests means that different characteristics can matter to different buyers. The 1985 cent can therefore have several different collecting stories. One collector may want an ordinary circulated example because it completes a year set. Another may want an MS-69 road example because they are assembling a registry collection. Another may want a dramatic off-center error. Another may be interested in a proof. Another may be researching plating errors. Each market evaluates the coin differently. The history of the cent itself is much older than the 1985 issue. The Lincoln cent debuted in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent. It was the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical person on the obverse. The design quickly became iconic. In 1959, the reverse changed from the wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The 1985 coin belongs to that memorial period. The memorial reverse also provides an interesting visual detail. The tiny seated figure of Lincoln inside the memorial is one of those details that collectors enjoy examining under magnification. On a normal coin, the feature is very small, and wear can make it difficult to see. The quality of the strike and the condition of the coin can affect how clearly the details appear. The 1985 cent was struck at a time when the mint was producing enormous quantities of 1-cent pieces. The billions of coins produced explain why ordinary examples are so common today. But the production process itself creates opportunities for mistakes. Machines operate at tremendous speed, planchets move through complex systems, dies experience wear, and quality control procedures must operate continuously. Errors can occasionally escape into circulation. That is the central attraction of error collecting. A normal coin represents the intended manufacturing process. An error coin can reveal a moment when something went wrong. Collectors value that story. A coin with a visible mint error can become a physical record of a manufacturing accident. However, the fact that mistakes happen does not mean every strange coin is an error. The coin has to demonstrate characteristics that could reasonably have been produced during minting. A scratch made by a shopping cart is not a mint error. A coin flattened by a machine is not automatically a mint error. A hole drilled into a coin is not a mint error. A coin exposed to chemicals is not necessarily a mint error. A genuine mint error has a manufacturing explanation. This concept is essential for anyone making YouTube content about rare coins. Viewers deserve to know the difference between a viral claim and verified numismatic evidence. A strong video can still be exciting without exaggerating. In fact, explaining the truth can make the video more credible and encourage viewers to subscribe because they know the channel is not simply repeating unrealistic prices. The $271 million number is particularly important to present carefully. A number that large is extraordinary even within the world of rare coins. It would require an extraordinary level of documentation, including a confirmed identity, professional authentication, a reputable auction or private sale, and a verifiable transaction. Without that evidence, the number should not be called the current market value. It can be mentioned as an internet claim or hypothetical headline, but not as a verified price. The documented figures available for the 1985 cent are far more modest. PCGS lists a $100 auction record for its referenced 1985 regular Philadelphia variety in MS-66RB, while its 1985 D data show a $5,635 auction result for an MS-69 example. These records demonstrate that valuable 1985 cents do exist, but they also demonstrate why the $271 million figure is not consistent with established market evidence. It is also important to understand that an auction record is not necessarily a current price guide. The $5,635 1985 DMS 69 result occurred in 2010, and market conditions can change. The record tells us that a collector paid that amount in that transaction. It does not mean every MS69 coin today will automatically sell for exactly the same amount. Certification population, registry competition, market sentiment, and auction venue can all affect prices. A current collector evaluating a 1985 cent should therefore seek recent comparable sales for the exact coin. If it is an error, look for recent sales of the same type of authenticated error. If it is a high-grade regular strike, look for sales of the same grade and color designation. If it is a proof, compare it with the same proof grade and designation. The more closely the comparable coin matches, the more useful the comparison becomes. A dealer may also be able to provide an opinion, but for a potentially major rarity, an independent professional grading service can provide stronger evidence. The cost of authentication and grading should be considered in relation to the potential value. It may not make sense to submit every common 1985 penny for professional grading, but a coin with a dramatic suspected error can be a different matter. The coin's condition should be preserved while it is being evaluated. Store it in an inert holder designed for coins. Avoid PVC-containing materials that can damage surfaces over time. Keep the coin away from moisture and extreme environmental conditions. Handle it by the edges rather than touching the surfaces with fingers. Finger oils can leave residues and eventually affect the appearance. The phrase "worth big money" should therefore be understood as an opportunity to investigate rather than a guarantee. A 1985 cent can be interesting because it is part of American history, because of its copper-plated zinc composition, because of its Lincoln Memorial design, because of its high production numbers, because of its condition rarity, or because an individual example may have escaped the mint with an unusual error. The coin's 1 cent face value is only the beginning of the story. Numismatics transforms coins into objects of historical and collectible interest. The market assigns premiums to scarcity, quality, rarity, authenticity, and demand. This is why two coins with the same date can have completely different values. A circulated 1985 cent with scratches, wear, and discoloration may be worth approximately its face value. A clean, original, uncirculated example may have a small premium. A top-grade certified red example may bring considerably more. A genuine error may bring a premium that depends on the error. A spectacular authenticated error can be worth much more than an ordinary example. But none of these categories automatically reaches $271 million. Collectors should also remember that rare and valuable are not identical. A coin can be rare but have little demand. A coin can be relatively common, but highly desirable in an exceptionally high grade. Value comes from the combination of scarcity and demand. Condition, visual appeal, historical importance, certification, and market timing also contribute. The 1985 cent is therefore a perfect example of how modern coin collecting works. Billions were made, but individual pieces can still be unusual. Most are ordinary, but a small number may have characteristics that attract specialists. The challenge is finding the genuine exception and proving what makes it different. If you are searching through a group of 1985 cents, begin with the obvious characteristics. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Examine the rim. Examine the lettering. Look at Lincoln's portrait. Inspect the memorial. Rotate the coin under light. Check the edge. Weigh it. Compare it to a normal example. Photograph anything unusual. Then research the specific characteristic rather than searching only for 1985 penny worth $271 million. Search terms such as 1985 Lincoln cent off center, 1985 Lincoln cent clipped planchette, 1985 Lincoln cent wrong planchette, 1985 Lincoln cent double die, 1985 Lincoln cent struck through, 1985 Lincoln cent die crack, and 1985 Lincoln cent plating error can lead to more useful research than simply searching for a huge dollar figure. The key is identification. Once the exact variety or error is identified, the value question becomes much easier. Without identification, the valuation is mostly speculation. A professional coin dealer or grading service can help if the feature is significant. The history of the 1985 cent also demonstrates why coin collecting remains popular. The coin is small, inexpensive, and easy to obtain, but it can open the door to a much larger story involving American history, manufacturing technology, monetary policy, design, metallurgy, and collecting culture. The copper-plated zinc composition is one of the defining features of the coin. The 2.50-gram weight separates it from older copper cents. The 19mm diameter and plain edge establish its physical format. The Lincoln portrait identifies the obverse. The memorial identifies the reverse. The absence or presence of a mint mark helps identify the production facility. The Philadelphia issue is particularly notable for its enormous production. PCGS states that Philadelphia struck 4,951,904,887 pieces, while another facility contributed to the combined no mint mark production, resulting in the reported total of 5,648,489,887 for the issue. The Denver issue had another enormous mintage. These numbers explain why collectors should not assume that every 1985 cent is rare. At the same time, a huge mintage does not prevent individual coins from becoming scarce in exceptional condition. Coins can be damaged during production, transportation, storage, and circulation. Even coins taken directly from mint sets can develop marks or discoloration. A small percentage can survive with exceptional surfaces. For collectors interested in red cents, preservation is especially important. Copper plating can change appearance over time. Exposure to air, moisture, chemicals, and contaminants can affect the surface. A coin that retains attractive original red color can be more desirable than one that has turned brown or developed spots. The design itself is relatively simple, but its simplicity makes errors easy to notice. A missing letter, dramatic off-center strike, large die crack, unusual rim, or wrong planchette can stand out clearly against the familiar Lincoln and Memorial designs. A 1985 penny, with a genuine major error, could therefore be a fascinating collectible even if it is nowhere near the sensational $271 million claim. The real value may be tens, hundreds, or thousands of dollars depending on the error and condition, while ordinary examples remain close to face value. There is no universal price for a 1985 era penny. One should also avoid confusing asking prices with selling prices. An online seller can list a common coin for $271 million, $10 million, or any other number. That does not mean anyone will pay it. A market value is much more meaningful when supported by actual completed transactions. For this reason, completed auction records are more informative than dramatic listings. Professional references can also provide population reports and grading information. PCGS's data show how the 1985 depopulation changes dramatically at the highest grades, illustrating the concept of conditional rarity. A serious collector can keep a record of the coin's measurements, photographs, grade estimates, and research sources. If the coin is eventually submitted for certification, those records can help document why the coin was selected. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial Cent is also an affordable way to teach children or beginning collectors about numismatics. A child can find one in a coin jar, learn the difference between Philadelphia and Denver, discover Abraham Lincoln, study the memorial, learn about the transition from bronze to zinc, and begin identifying errors. The hobby does not require an expensive collection to begin. For a YouTube audience, this subject can be especially engaging because viewers can be encouraged to check their own change. Instead of telling viewers that every 1985 penny is worth a fortune, the video can challenge them to inspect their coins for genuine characteristics. The excitement comes from the possibility of discovery, while the factual explanation builds trust. A responsible collector should never spend large sums based solely on a viral claim. If someone says that a particular 1985 penny is worth $271 million, ask for the evidence. Ask for the auction house. Ask for the date of sale. Ask for the certification number. Ask for the exact error attribution. Ask whether the transaction was completed. Ask whether the result can be independently verified. If none of that information exists, the claim should be treated with skepticism. The same principle applies to claims such as only one exists. A coin may be extremely rare, but proving that only one exists can be difficult. Population reports only count known certified examples, not every coin in private hands or every uncertified example. A statement such as unique should therefore be supported by strong evidence. The most valuable coin stories usually contain several layers of information: the coin's normal specifications, its historical context, the reason the specific example is unusual, the authentication process, its grade, previous ownership or provenance if relevant, and documented auction history. A sensational number without those details is not enough. The 1985 cent also demonstrates the importance of professional terminology. A mint error is not the same thing as a variety. A double die is generally a variety created during die production. An off-center strike is an error created during striking. A clipped planchette is a planchette production error. A die crack is a die-related variety, or error characteristic depending on the specific terminology used. A plating blister is a planchette, or plating-related phenomenon. Understanding these distinctions makes research much more accurate. Collectors should also distinguish error, variety, and damage when writing descriptions. If the evidence is uncertain, use terms such as suspected error, rather than making an absolute claim. That wording protects the collector from overstating the evidence and encourages professional evaluation. The value of a coin can also depend on whether the error is recognized by the grading service. A dramatic, but unverified coin may be difficult to sell at the price of a certified example. Certification can give buyers confidence that the unusual feature is authentic and not manufactured after the coin left the mint. The grading process itself can be fascinating. A professional examines the coin's surfaces, strike, color, marks, and overall preservation. If the coin is submitted as an error, the service may determine whether the feature qualifies for an error designation. A certified holder can then provide a standardized description that buyers can use when comparing auction results. For a high-value error, provenance can also matter. If the coin has a documented history from a recognized collection or auction, that history can increase buyer confidence. But provenance does not substitute for authentication. The physical characteristics of the coin remain central. The $271 million claim should therefore be placed into the correct context. It can be used as an attention-grabbing hypothetical figure in a video title, but the narration should explain that it is not a verified current market value. If the goal is educational content, the most valuable information is actually the explanation of what makes a 1985 penny rare and how viewers can avoid being fooled by exaggerated claims. The realistic range for a common 1985 cent is dramatically lower than $271 million. Many circulated examples are worth little more than 1 cent. Better examples can bring modest premiums. High-grade certified examples can bring substantially more. Certain authenticated errors can command meaningful collector premiums. Exceptional examples can reach thousands, as documented by the 1985 DMS 69 auction record. But a $271 million price is not established by the available records. The coin's 2.50 gram standard weight is therefore one of the first facts a collector should remember. The copper-plated zinc composition is another. The plain edge is another. The Lincoln Memorial reverse and Lincoln portrait identify the design. The mint mark helps identify production. The date establishes the issue. The condition and unusual features determine whether the particular specimen deserves further attention. A collector should never use a kitchen scale that rounds to whole grams for serious error examination. A 2.50 gram coin could appear as 3 grams or 2 grams on an inaccurate scale, creating unnecessary confusion. A precision scale with 100th gram resolution is much more useful. Even then, the scale should be calibrated and tested with a known reference weight. A caliper should also be used carefully. The coin should not be squeezed or damaged. Diameter measurements should be taken across the appropriate points, and any unusual shape should be documented rather than corrected. Lighting is equally important. Direct harsh light can exaggerate scratches and make normal surface marks appear dramatic. Diffused light can reveal luster and texture more naturally. Multiple lighting angles can help distinguish raised die characteristics from incuse scratches. A loupe can reveal tiny details in the date and lettering. But excessive magnification can cause collectors to see abnormalities that are not actually important. The goal is not to find something strange at any cost, it is to determine whether the feature has a plausible numismatic explanation. The best collectors develop patience. They do not immediately decide that a coin is worth a fortune. They observe, measure, photograph, compare, research, and authenticate. This approach is especially important with modern cents because so many examples exist. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial cent is therefore not a guaranteed jackpot. It is a coin with an interesting history and real potential for collector interest when exceptional characteristics are present. The most exciting discoveries are those that can be proven. If a 1985 cent has an unusual error, the collector should preserve it exactly as found and seek expert advice. If it is merely damaged, it may have little or no premium. If it is a normal coin in circulated condition, it may simply be worth 1 cent. If it is a high-grade certified example, the market can be different. If it is a genuine major mint error, the market can be substantially different again. The difference between these categories is the heart of the story. A 1985 Lincoln cent weighs approximately 2.50 grams. It is about 19 millimeters in diameter. It has a plain edge. It is made from copper-plated zinc. The obverse carries Abraham Lincoln's portrait, while the reverse carries the Lincoln Memorial. Philadelphia examples have no mint mark, Denver examples have AD, and San Francisco produced proof examples with an S. PCGS confirms these basic specifications for the relevant 1985 issues. The date is common, but the individual coin may not be ordinary. A genuine error can change the equation. Condition can change the equation. Certification can change the equation. Collector demand can change the equation. That is why the correct question is not, is a 1985 penny worth $271 million? The correct question is what exactly is unusual about this particular 1985 penny, and what do verified comparable sales show? That question leads to evidence instead of speculation. If a viewer finds a 1985 penny and sees a strange mark, the first step should be to compare it with another 1985 cent. If the same mark appears in exactly the same place on multiple coins, it might be a die characteristic or variety. If the mark is unique and appears random, it could be damage. If the coin's shape is dramatically different, investigate striking errors. If the weight is unusual, investigate planchet possibilities. If the color is different, investigate composition and environmental effects. This systematic approach can turn a simple 1-cent coin into a genuine research project. The 1985 cent is also a reminder that coin collecting is not simply about finding old money. It is about understanding manufacturing, history, design, metallurgy, rarity, preservation, and markets. A coin can be common in one category and rare in another. A coin can have billions of siblings and still be valuable because one characteristic makes it exceptional. The market also rewards trust. Collectors want to know that the coin they are buying is authentic and correctly described. That is why reputable certification and documented auction records matter. The more valuable the coin, the more important verification becomes. A sensational title can attract attention, but accurate information keeps a channel credible. If a video discusses the 1985 penny and the $271 million claim, the best presentation is to say clearly that the enormous figure is not a verified market price. Then explain the real specifications, real history, real errors, real high-grade examples, and real documented sales. That approach gives viewers something they can actually use. They can look at their own 1985 cents and understand what to check. They can avoid polishing coins. They can use a precision scale. They can photograph suspected errors. They can compare with professional references. They can seek authentication when the evidence is strong. The 1985 Lincoln cent may never become a $271 million coin simply because someone repeats that number online. Coin markets do not work that way. A real $271 million valuation would require a transaction or compelling market evidence. Until such evidence exists, the responsible position is that the $271 million claim is unverified and unsupported. That does not make the coin boring. In fact, the real story is more useful. A common 1985 penny can teach collectors about the transition to copper-plated zinc. It can teach them how mint marks work. It can teach them about the Lincoln Memorial design. It can teach them how errors occur. It can teach them about grading and conditional rarity. It can teach them how to recognize misinformation. And, in the rare case of a genuine unusual specimen, it can lead to a valuable discovery. The most important lesson is to inspect before spending and authenticate before believing. A 1985 cent that appears unusual should not be thrown away, but it also should not automatically be called a fortune. Document the evidence. Compare it with known examples. Check the weight and dimensions. Examine the edge. Study the surfaces. Look for a mint-made explanation. Then seek professional help if the characteristics justify it. The Lincoln Memorial itself represents an important chapter in American coin design, and the 1985 issue sits near the middle of the Memorial Reverse era. The coin was produced during the period when the mint was using copper-plated zinc planchets and producing enormous quantities to meet the demand for circulating cents. That production environment explains both the abundance of ordinary examples and the possibility that occasional errors escaped into circulation. The 1985 cent is therefore a fascinating intersection of commonness and rarity. The date is common. The normal coin is common. The exceptional coin may not be common. That distinction is what makes modern-era collecting so interesting. A collector who finds a 1985 cent with a possible error should resist the temptation to clean it or alter it. The original surfaces contain evidence. Even if the coin ultimately turns out to be worth only 1 cent, preserving it while researching is the safest approach. If it turns out to be valuable, preserving the original state can be critical. The same advice applies to suspected high-grade examples. Do not rub the coin with a cloth. Do not polish it. Do not dip it in household chemicals. Do not scratch the surface to see what metal is underneath. Do not attempt to remove discoloration. Professional graders want to see the coin as it exists. If the coin is authenticated and graded, the holder can protect it and provide a standardized reference. Collectors can then search for comparable sales using the exact grade and designation. If the coin receives an error attribution, that attribution can become the central element of its market value. The 1985 DMS 69 example is a particularly useful documented case, because it shows how a modern common date cent can achieve a significant price through extreme condition rarity. PCGS records the $5,635 auction result and notes that very high-grade examples become scarce. This is a far more credible demonstration of big money potential than an unsupported $271 million claim. The Philadelphia issue also demonstrates that high-grade modern cents can attract premiums. PCGS notes that the market for the 1985 Lincoln cent is strongly influenced by condition, with MS-68 road or better examples receiving substantial collector attention. Again, this does not mean every shiny penny has that value. Professional grading is essential. The proof issue offers another collecting path. San Francisco produced proof coins with the S mint mark, and PCGS lists a PR70 DCAM auction record of $1,610 for the cited 1985 S variety. This provides another real example of how grade and format influence value. These documented examples demonstrate the range of the market. Ordinary cents are inexpensive. Exceptional certified examples can be worth more. Dramatic errors can command premiums. The market is not a single fixed number. A good coin collector learns to separate face value, retail asking price, wholesale dealer value, auction realization, and speculative internet claims. These are not interchangeable. A seller's listing price is not proof that a buyer will pay it. A price guide is not a guaranteed offer. An old auction result is not automatically today's market value. And a viral social media claim is not evidence at all unless it can be verified. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial Cent therefore deserves attention, but it deserves accurate attention. Its physical specifications are well documented. Its design is historically recognizable. Its production numbers are enormous. Its normal value is modest. Its highest grade examples can be much more interesting. Its genuine mint errors can be valuable. Its alleged $271 million value is not verified. If a viewer owns a 1985 cent, they should inspect it rather than assume. Check whether it is Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Check whether it is a circulation strike or proof. Check its weight. Check the edge. Check the surfaces. Look for genuine die characteristics. Compare it with reference images. If something appears genuinely unusual, seek expert evaluation. The story of this little coin is ultimately a story about details. The date alone does not make it rare. The word error alone does not make it valuable. The color alone does not make it valuable. The weight alone does not make it valuable. The value comes from proving what the coin is and why it is unusual. That is the real opportunity with a 1985 Lincoln cent. A 1-cent coin can remain a 1-cent coin, or it can become a collectible with a premium. The difference is evidence. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial Cent has the familiar Abraham Lincoln portrait, the famous memorial reverse, the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, 1 cent, and the date 1985. It was produced in copper-plated zinc, normally weighing about 2.50 grams. Its edge is plain. The Philadelphia issue has no mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco issues can be identified by their mint marks. PCGS documents the major specifications and production information for the series. For collectors, the most exciting possibility is a genuine error that escaped the mint. But the collector must prove the error. That proof can involve weight, dimensions, design displacement, surface characteristics, die evidence, plating characteristics, and professional authentication. The bigger the claimed value, the stronger the evidence needs to be. So if someone asks whether a 1985 Lincoln penny is worth $271 million, the honest answer is no verified evidence supports that figure as the current market value. If someone asks whether a 1985 penny can be worth more than 1 cent, the answer is yes. High-grade examples and genuine errors can command premiums. If someone asks whether a spectacular authenticated error could be valuable, again the answer is yes. But the exact value depends on the exact error, condition, authentication, rarity, and market demand. The most responsible conclusion is therefore simple: check your 1985 cents, but do not believe every enormous valuation you see online. A real rare coin will have a story that can be tested. Its weight can be measured. Its dimensions can be checked. Its error can be explained. Its condition can be graded. Its auction history can be documented. And its market value can be compared with actual sales. That is what makes a real coin discovery exciting. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial Cent is not valuable because somebody typed a huge number beside its name. It becomes valuable when collectors can demonstrate that a particular example possesses something genuinely scarce and desirable. That could be an authenticated mint error, an unusual die variety, an exceptional grade, an extraordinary proof, or another recognized numismatic characteristic. The $271 million figure should therefore remain a headline claim rather than a verified valuation. The documented evidence available for 1985 cents points toward a much more realistic market, where common examples remain inexpensive, and exceptional certified coins can command meaningful premiums. PCGS's documented auction records illustrate that reality clearly. For anyone holding a 1985 penny right now, the best advice is to slow down, look closely, and preserve the coin. Do not clean it. Do not scratch it. Do not attempt to test the metal destructively. Take clear photographs. Weigh it accurately. Measure it carefully. Examine the edge. Compare it with a normal 1985 cent. Research the exact characteristic. And if the evidence suggests a serious mint error, have the coin evaluated by a reputable professional. Sometimes the most valuable thing about a coin is not the number attached to it, but the story it tells. The 1985 Lincoln Cent tells a story about Abraham Lincoln, American coin design, the Lincoln Memorial, modern mint technology, copper-plated zinc, enormous production runs, quality control, collecting, grading, and the continuing search for unusual coins hidden in ordinary places. And that is why the 1985 Lincoln Memorial Cent remains worth examining. It may be only 1 cent in face value. It may be a modest collectible. It may be a high-grade rarity. It may be a genuine mint error. But before calling it a fortune, identify it, authenticate it, and compare it with real market evidence. That is the difference between a viral coin claim and genuine numismatic research.